And starting off this edition with the latest from U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's India visit. Pompeo met Prime Minister Narendra Modi this morning at his New Delhi residence. The high-level meeting was meant to build the ground for Prime Minister Modi's meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, scheduled for later this week in Osaka in Japan. The two leaders discussed a whole range of issues, including Iran, oil and India's S-400 deal with Russia. Pompeo will be meeting his Indian counterpart, Dr. S. Jaishankar, in just a short while from now. The two sides will be releasing press statements that's scheduled for about 2 p.m. IST. Pompeo also made a stop over to Afghanistan, where he met the country's President Ashraf Ghani shortly before landing in India. It's a crucial visit, given that it follows Mike Pompeo's short but significant stopovers in West Asia. Pompeo's visit to India comes ahead of the G20 summit. Diplomatic sources have been telling us that U.S.-Iran tensions will feature prominently as a part of that agenda. Remember, United States has refused to extend Iran trade waiver to India. Iran was India's second largest oil supplier last year. Diplomatic sources have been telling WION that S. Jaishankar will be speaking with Mike Pompeo about alternatives for India's oil imports. WION also learning that Indian officials have already spoken with their Iranian counterparts about the current situation. New Delhi has asked both Tehran and Washington to refrain from escalating the situation any further. According to sources, S. Jaishankar will also raise the issue of the S-400 missile systems with Mike Pompeo. Jaishankar is likely to tell Mike Pompeo that India has a long-standing defense relationship with Russia and that New Delhi went ahead with the deal, keeping in mind the country's security needs. Remember, India struck a deal with Russia on the purchase of the S-400 system despite U.S. sanctions on Russia. So basically, by signing that S-400 deal, India had risked triggering the CAATSA, or the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. The U.S. has repeatedly stated that India should look for an alternative. India, however, has made it clear that it has no plans to scrap the S-400 deal. And our associate editor, Ramesh Ramachandran, has been tracking the very latest on that visit, is now joining us live on the broadcast from New Delhi. Good morning, Ramesh. Help our viewers better understand your assessment of what the two sides will be hoping to achieve at the end of this three-day visit of Mike Pompeo.
Good morning, Molly. Just moments ago, we saw Mike Pompeo meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Prime Minister's residence. Now, that would set the stage for the Modi-Trump meeting on the margins of the G20 summit later this week in Osaka, Japan. I'm given to understand that Mike Pompeo will soon be making his way to the Prime Minister's office behind me for a meeting with National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Now, that meeting will encompass the entire gamut of bilateral, regional and global issues, including but not limited to the issue of terrorism, technology and trade, especially in the light of India's concerns about the import of oil from Iran. India's concerns also about the purchase of the S-400 missile defense system from Russia. Remember, as you mentioned in that intervention just moments ago, Molly, that the Americans are threatening to invoke the CAATSA, or the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act. Now, that essentially means that the moment India makes the purchase of the S-400 from Russia, the sanctions will kick in, and that might affect India adversely going forward. Now, India will be looking to get an exemption from the CAATSA in these talks here in New Delhi today. On the Iran front, India's concerns, especially in terms of energy security. As you mentioned, Iran is among the biggest suppliers of crude oil to India, which was stopped after the 2nd of May when the U.S. ended the exemption for India. And since then, we have stopped buying oil from Iran. India will be looking to hear from the American side as to what alternatives they have in mind to shore up India's energy reserves. Also in the fact that India has invested in the development of the Chabahar port in Iran. India will be looking to get the reassurance from the American side as to the port development will be exempt from American sanctions going forward as well.
Absolutely. And Ramesh, a lot on the table as far as the visit is concerned, but also remind our viewers what the schedule of Mike Pompeo will be looking like over the next 2 days. We are looking at a meeting, a press statement rather, at 2 p.m. Help our viewers better understand what the rest of the day and the next day will be looking like.
Indeed, it's a 3-day visit to India by Mike Pompeo. On his way to New Delhi yesterday, he had a brief stopover in Kabul where he met with President Ashraf Ghani of Afghanistan and Chief Executive Abdullah Abdullah. And there he told reporters that he expects and he hopes to make some progress on the Afghan peace process by the 1st of September, before the elections are due in Afghanistan. And that, to my mind, is significant because India's concerns about talking to the Taliban in particular. India has had a very uneasy ties with Taliban going back several decades, and India will be looking to hear from Pompeo firsthand about what he has in mind for Afghanistan going forward as well. Now, today we already met with Prime Minister Modi, and he'll be meeting with Mr. Doval just moments from now. And later in the afternoon, he'll be having talks with Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar, followed by a joint press statement to the media. In the afternoon, he'll be meeting with the Indian business persons, and he'll cap off his day's engagements by addressing a public lecture here in New Delhi in the evening at about 7 p.m. local time. And he'll fly out tomorrow morning for Japan for the G20 summit.
All right, we're going to leave it there for the moment, Ramesh.